let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to say welcome to all of my friends, new and old. My name is Glennis Chester. I am the NFRW Program Committee Chairman and your host for Bite-Sized Tools You Can Use. The goal of this series is to provide practical leadership tools and tips from the trenches that you can use right now in a convenient 30-minute format. We hope that our information and suggestions are something that you can take away and use today, this week, or this month immediately. If you're interested in watching our past episodes that we've done, log on to the NFRW website like you always would. In the red bar at the top, hover your cursor over members. There's a drop-down menu that will appear. Go into the left-hand column a little bit, halfway down, it will say programs. Click on that. And then right under the big apple graphic, we'll have a link to the archived episodes of Bite-Sized Tools. So it's very, very simple. Then you can see the last two that we've done. And then if for some reason you hear someone that says, oh man, I didn't get to hear about what the changes are for campaign activities, say, hey, well, look, guess what? They're recorded. So tell them exactly what to do, to go onto the NFRW website, and they too can listen to this broadcast later. It'll only take 30 minutes and they'll get all the highlights of the changes of the campaign activities. So for today's program, we are going to discuss the very, very important changes happening to campaign activities. We will talk about not only the reporting and tracking of political activity hours, but also how to encourage participation, because that is so very important in our organization. As I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. And if Erica can answer them, she will. Otherwise, she'll feed them to us at the end of the program and we'll answer them aloud for everyone. And by the way, I want to take this moment to thank Erica Watley, my dear friend, who is my right-hand buddy who helps me out with these programs. She's the communications director for Texas, and I would not know what to do without her. I also would like to introduce Teresa Skink. She is the vice chair of NFRW's Campaign Activities Committee, and she will be joining us in a few minutes to talk about specific questions that you may have, that we want you to know about the changes that are being implemented in policy from NFRW regarding campaign activities. And they are very, very important. And this is the only planned training, so you need to know, everybody needs to know it, whether you are a campaign activities chair at the club level, at the state level, or you're counting your own hours. You have to know what's changed. This is important for every member of NFRW. So, campaign activities and political activities. Before I go too much farther, sometimes I use one or the other term. I want you to understand, don't get confused if I say one or the other. Those terms are interchangeable. They mean the exact same thing. I often say political activities just because I think it is a little more descriptive of the work that we do. But NFRW still uses campaign activities on most of its forms and when they talk about the work that we do. So if I say one or the other, don't get confused. It's all the same thing. So before we talk about what's different, let's talk about encouraging participation. Everyone likes to feel appreciated and that their efforts are valued. So some simple and effective tools that you can use to encourage participation, whether at the club level or the state level, are, one, recognition. Well, first of all, always, if someone turns in hours to you, let them know that you received them. This can even be done electronically depending on how you receive your hours. If you have an app that you're doing it on, or you're doing it on your website, you can set it up so that it automatically sends them a message saying your hours have been received. But always let them know that their hours have been received. But then, words matter. Acknowledge people that submit a lot of hours. Send a thank you note that says, we really appreciate the fact that you turned in X number of hours this month. especially your top reporters, letting them know how much their time matters to you makes them want to work that much harder. And when one person says, hey, I got a thank you note from my club or from my state, when they hear that from someone else, they go, oh, I didn't get a thank you note. How many hours did you turn in? And they think, oh, well, I didn't turn all my hours in. Maybe I should start turning in my hours, because they want to be recognized as well. And it can be a thank you note, whether you do it in your newsletter or publicly in a meeting of your membership. Give kudos to your top reporters. Let them know how important they are. Their time is important. We all know time is money. Time is valuable. So let them know that their efforts are important to you. They're important to your organization. Just a little shout out makes all the difference in the world. And I mean, you know how it is, ladies. We don't do this for the pat on the back. But you know, it's kind of nice every once in a while to see your name written somewhere and saying, hey, thank you, Susie Q, for submitting, 1,500 hours in the last quarter. You're like, wow, somebody noticed, and now everybody else is looking at that. It kind of makes you feel good. You go, I can do even more next time. So do that. And finally, let the state legislators know when there's a rock star individual or club in their area. Trust me, they want to know. Tell them. Send them a little email. Hey, did you know that club so-and-so or individual so-and-so turned in this many hours in your area? They want to know that, because they're going to be calling that person and saying, hey, can you help me? Because when they need work done, when they have campaign work that they need to get accomplished, they know who the real workers are. So that's so important. So secondly, besides recognition, set challenges. I love this one. My favorite saying, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So don't just wish, make a plan. A challenge should be a stretch, but should be attainable. You don't want it to be too easy, but you've got to be able to do it. How many members do you have in your club? How many members do you have in your state? How many are reporting their hours? And we know they work, right? But are they reporting? Your goal is to increase the percentage of participants and the total number of hours. Those are two separate goals, but very, very important. One thing you can do, pardon me, is give small gifts to those who meet high goals. Our state gives unique lapel pins for ladies who make 5,000 phone calls or more. And it's something that our ladies are really looking forward to. We also give a pin for the ladies who make X number of door knocks on doors. And we haven't really started doing the door knocking thing yet, but that's coming out soon. Many clubs encourage participation by giving small gifts, gift cards, or even priority seating at a club hosted event, whether it's our club meeting or a social. Maybe they sit at the president's table. Little things, it doesn't even have to cost anything, but it's a form of appreciation. It means a lot to the ladies just to say, hey, I noticed you, I appreciate you, I appreciate the work that you're putting into the club and to the organization. It means something. And finally, competition. Clutch the pearls. You know that women are competitive. At our state convention, we have always awarded certificates to clubs in each category for the size of their club that have the most hours, and also to the individual member that has the most hours for the term. Last year, we decided to give a trophy to the member with the most hours, and because we're girls, it had to be awesome. In fact, oh wait, where did I put it? I have to show you this. And I didn't put it right here, did I? Hold on. I should have had it right here, and I didn't. But this is so cool. The most campaign hours, you got a golden shoe, or not a golden shoe, a crystal glass slipper, crystal slipper. Don't fall off. Not replaceable. But let me tell you, the oohs and the ahs that we got over the crystal shoe because everybody wanted it. And the thought was, you know, you're block walking, you wear out the tread on your shoes, you need something else. But, you know, we're girls and we didn't want a sneaker. We didn't want to get an old sneaker. So it was the crystal shoe. And by the way, the lady who won this, she logged in over the term 8,555 hours. Now, let me tell you, when they saw this award, all the ladies wanted it. And it's just a trophy. It goes with all the other trophies that we're giving out at convention. So now we've got a whole lot more women that are going to work a whole lot harder than they would have for a certificate because they want this with the engraved, you know, thank you from Texas Federation. Competition works for your clubs as well as it does for your states, but keep it positive. It's so important. When Beth sees that Jenny got recognized for submitting 200 hours last month, and she knows darn well that her cookies that she brought to the veterans picnic were not homemade, but were really purchased at the Walmart bakery. And she knows that her personal cookies were made from her grandma Sue's recipe, were homemade, and she didn't get recognized for all of her hours. Well, you can see where I'm going with that. You may end up having to have a conversation with, why did she get recognized and I didn't get recognized, and blah, 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 blah. Well, that could be a lot of different things. One, maybe you didn't turn all your hours in, or two, maybe she did a lot of other things as well. But competition is a good thing, but we need to keep it positive. And we want to use it to create a positive energy and to bring us all up higher, not to be a negative thing. So with that in mind, I want to chat just for 1 minute about how we are going to record those hours, how we are going to track and report, because those things are going to change significantly in the next 2 years. And it's very, very important that we are all on the same page so that we don't have confusion in the coming months. So Teresa is joining me today. Thank you so much, Teresa, to help us answer some really important questions. And I'd like to start out with doing a Q&A with her. And if you have any questions, be sure and put them in the chat so that we can bring them up at the end as we go along. Volunteer hours have routinely been submitted by members and also our associate male members. But now, I guess, certain paid workers will also be reportable. Can you please explain what type of paid work will count as campaign hours now?
Absolutely, and I'm very pleased to be here with all of you ladies, and that you have recognized how important this training is going to be, because as Glennis has said, there are many, many changes. And I want to just kind of backtrack just a little tiny bit, Glennis, because I think we have the 3 changes that we need to kind of hit upon before I actually go into this. And that is, one, our timing of reporting. We normally only collect it, you know, every 2 years. Now we're going to be collecting it every 6 months. So I think that was the real importance of this training today, because we're coming up on the first 6 month report. So there's that. There's the fact that the hours will be submitted by the clubs directly to the NFRW online. And then there's the fact that what you're now touching on is what counts, okay? So those are the 3 big changes. And I want to emphasize those 3 because that was my whole goal today, was to make sure people knew these big 3 changes, okay? As far as the hours, if you pay for your ticket and you go to the Lincoln dinner, you know, it used to be, well, you didn't volunteer, you paid to go there. Well, no, your time is what we're counting. You know, so if you paid to go to that dinner, you can still count those hours. And by the way, you can count the time it took you to get there. So it's important, if you're going to a meeting, if you're going to an event, the driving to and from is included in that. So though that paid activity, if you happen to be, you know, working as a paid poll worker, not a volunteer, but you're actually hired by the county to work that day, okay? You're only hired for that day. You're not an employee. So those hours still count, okay, even though you got paid. So those are the two most important ones. But the key thing is, that's what you can do. What you can't report is if you're employed. That is, if you happen to work for the congressman, if you happen to work for the party, if you happen to work for the, at the headquarters, all those permanently paid positions, you cannot report. But if you're volunteering and getting paid for, short-term work, that counts.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, federated clubs will now submit hours directly to NFRW instead of to their state. How will they do that exactly?
I believe you said you had the form. Were you going to put it up?
Yes.
There's online, by the way, ladies, you can now go to the NFRW website and you can see the.
Erica, can you put up the other form? I'm sorry, I got a little out of order.
Yeah, this is the instruction form. The other form is the actual online form that you submit on. But this is important. You need to read these because that's going to tell you kind of what you can count and when to report. But the actual form itself is very, very, very simple. It is the name of the club, the name of the president, the total number of hours. We don't ask you to do any backup information. It's your word of honor. I mean, ladies, we can be trusted. So when you put those hours down, we know that that is truly your hours that you worked. So your members have given it to you as a club president. You as a club president total up those hours every 6 months and you submit it online on this other form that will pop up soon. But anyway, that's where you do it. It's very, very simple. And oh, by the way, we want you to report your calls, your phone calls. So there'll be a section for hours and there'll be a section for calls. And many of us have made calls on the apps that come from our candidates or activities, and it automatically tells you how many hours. So if I sit here for 3 hours, it's going to tell me I made 200 calls or whatever. So then I write that down, or I always make a copy of it and I throw it in my folder. That way I know I've got that. And then the next time it says 300 hours or 500 hours and it's cumulative. However, that's the way that's counted that you're already told. What you might want to record are the hours that you make. Like if you're making phone calls to invite people to the club, if you're making phone calls to ask people to go walk a precinct, if you're making phone calls to get people out to a rally, all those are phone calls. So you tally up those calls on your own because there's nobody telling it for you. So the calls count, the hours count.
Okay. Erica, can I ask you to scroll that up just a little bit or scroll down a little bit so people can kind of see?
Yeah, if the actual information.
Can you scroll that down, Erica?
Is it not showing up?
Well, the sheet is there, but it's not scrolling down.
Oh, is this the form still?
No, the form never came up. It's just the instructions. Okay, so there's the instructions. That's great.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so these are the instructions, and it kind of shows, it talks about the timeline. It gives you all the information, a little bit more. It gives you everything you need to know about club sizes, everything we're talking about today, and a whole lot more. So this will be very, very important to you. This is on the NFRW website right now, and you can find it very easily by logging in as you always would, going to the members section, and then clicking on awards forms, and it's right there. Excellent. This is perfect.
So if I can go back just a little bit, because you focused a lot on recognition. If you'll back that up, what we are planning to do, in addition to having you report every 6 months, the purpose of that is not to have you work harder, but to be recognized, okay? And as we get that information at the NFRW level, it will be reported in the Capital Connection. So there'll be a little write-up. It'll say Susie Q, state of Texas or state of California did X amount of hours, and then they'll be listed by member, by club size, and by state size. So there'll be a recognition, which is important. And again, it's kind of like, I don't remember if you are old enough to have gotten stars on your reports at school, but there used to be a little chart and had stars. And I loved it because I wanted to see an extra star up there for me, okay? Because I had worked extra hard. So it's important that the campaign hours and the number of calls logged will be recognized every 6 months. And for the first report, because we don't want to forget this, it's actually going to be 2 6 months reports, because we're reporting the last 6 months of 21. Remember, we didn't report them last year or the last biennial. So we will report those 6 hours and the first 6 hours of 22 by July 15th. So all of that, all the instructions are on there. Now, the form itself, as I said, it's a separate form from this, but it's very, very simple. So it's not.
Erica, can you take this one off and put the website up, the form site and the form? Excellent.
There you go.
This is
See
what
how
the form
simple?
looks like. So
It's really
the first,
simple.
for right now, you'll report two different reporting periods will be due on July 15th. It will be July 1st to December 31st of 2021 and January 1st to June 30th of 2022 will both be due on July 15th. But you'll report them in 2 separate areas. As you can see, you just highlight which one with its first report, second report, put your state federation, state president, club name. Can you scroll it down a little bit? Your club, how many club members you have, your contact email, all of, all of your particulars. And then you'll also put down who your top volunteer is for that period. Now, this is going to be a whole lot easier at the end of the term when we normally turn into NFRW who our top volunteer is for the term, because you will have it for every 6 months and it will spit it out. This is going to add up itself and it will spit out a report every 6 months and will add up to the end of the year. So you'll know not only who your top volunteers were every 6 months, but your hours will add up and you'll know automatically how much you have. So that will be very, very helpful to your state. And that's another thing I wanted to throw in here that I didn't say earlier is as these are dumped into this form, a report will be kicked out and sent to your state so that they will know what all the clubs are turning in. So your campaign activities chairman will be getting all of these reports as well as your state president so that they can follow up if there's anyone not turning in forms. They can call, whatever X club and say, you didn't turn in a report this period. Can we chat about that and see why you didn't get it turned in? So there we are with that. And something else I wanted to ask you.
Skipping reports.
How will the states know which of their clubs have reported? Well, I guess we kind of talked about that. They'll know that because of the report that gets kicked out at the end. But if a club has not turned in, will they have the opportunity to turn it in later? What happens if, a state report comes out and it says, 6 of your clubs haven't turned in any hours? What if they call and say, I didn't get it turned in on time? What happens then? Will they have the opportunity to turn those in?
Yes, and the way that you would do that, you would not go back and do an old report, but you would put it in the current report. So in other words, your current report might have hours that were done in January and you're reporting it, in the July through December report, because these are cumulative. So it really doesn't, quote, matter when you report them, except that it makes it a lot easier for you and for the recognition. If you didn't report it, you're not going to get recognized in that first 6 month period. But it'll roll over into this other report. So hopefully it's not going to be, a whole 6 month period that you forgot to report, but, maybe just a few hours. But we want you to be able to report every hour totally. Okay, because, the idea is that at the end of the 2 years, it's the total number of hours that the NFRW gives their reports on, the total number of calls. So it's going to be cumulative.
Okay, I understand that. What about a member, your member with the most hours? If your member from the first 6 months didn't get her, you didn't turn her in, but then she have a different person in the second 6 months that has the most hours, how do you reconcile that?
You're talking about the individual member now?
Yes, yes.
So we're saying that, well, for instance, let's just say that, Susie got the award for top hours. You're talking about top hours now, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
So Susie got the award for top hours because that was what was reported, okay?
Yes.
So for that 6-month period of time, Susie from Arizona got the award for the member for that club. See, remember, it's divided into the club and the state. So there's going to be more than just one award. Okay. So, but that particular member, if they did not report and they carry their information over to the next quarter, it will display in the second quarter or the second 6-month report. Okay. So, but again, the idea is that the recognition, if you want to call that is being given every 6 months is for your participation. So the real recognition comes at the end. So that's the key thing, so that you're accumulating. So that if you didn't report them the first one and you reported it the second one, well, if you had 10 hours in the first and 10 hours in the second, and you reported 20 in the second, it's still 20 hours, so it's the cumulative that counts. And we have to focus on that. It will skew maybe the 6-month report, but at the end, it'll all come out in the wash.
It'll all come out in the wash. It'll all come out in the wash. Okay, excellent. That was a question that I think is going to weigh on a lot of people's minds. Okay, so our federation members amass millions of volunteer hours. Why is it important to report them? I mean, we're already working them. Why do we need to report them?
Well, because they're valuable. And, the current rate, as you noted here, is $29.95 an hour. Ladies, we're $29.95 just for our phone calls, our walking, or whatever. But that means that the party, whether it's the local, the state, or the national, have had to pay somebody to do that work if they wanted to get it done. And we need to, get the walking done, the phone calling, and all that done. So the party depends on us, but we want the party to know the value. So the party gets a report. And again, as you said, if we don't report it, they don't know it. So if they don't know that we did 8 million hours, well, 8 million hours times $30 is a lot that they would have had to pay. So they know that they can count on us, but we also need to be recognized for that. The candidates, you mentioned it earlier, the candidates get to know that this is the value of that individual that's been walking the precinct for them. They can then, sometimes it's maybe crass, if that's a word, to look at it financially, but everything ends up being financial, because if the party had to pay for all of our hours, we'd have to be donating the money to them, and then they'd be paying us. So this way we're doing the work.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. As usual, we've gone really close to the end, and we only have a few minutes left. But Erica, do we have any questions that we can answer really quickly?
There's a bunch of questions about what counts as hours. So maybe I should get the text for the chat and
Okay.
we could put yes, 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 no. I mean, I know there's just a whole bunch of questions on what counts as hours.
I think the best thing to talk about is what does not count. And I think that would make it a little bit simpler, because what you do politically, and Glennis said the word political is important because it's more flexible. Campaigns, sometimes we narrow it in our minds to say, a candidate. Okay, and normally we think candidate. Okay, political is a lot of stuff. I mean, everything from phoning, from the newsletter, from social media, from going and speaking at events. All of these things are really important. What does not count is if you're out cleaning the highway, okay? If you're out, and important things, if you're doing prayer walks, if you're doing, if you're under Caring for America, you get to report a lot of that, okay? Under the book club, this does not count. You know, this is not a political activity, okay? So we really need to focus on what is an activity, the activity itself, okay? That impacts people politically, whether it's an issue, an initiative, you know, a ballot initiative, or a candidate.
That's right. Or a training.
Training,
You're
very
training.
important.
This is training. So yes, this time would count. What you're doing right now, this counts. Make sure you count it. I also, Erica, if you would please put up Teresa's email in the chat so that anybody has any questions, you can contact her directly. She is the Vice Chair of Campaign Activities. She is the responsible person for coming up with all of these great forms. And she's been working so diligently to make this a workable program for everyone, make it easier for everyone to get their hours in and make them count and make it a great program that everyone wants to be a part of. I hope you really, really enjoyed Bite Size Tools this month. I hope you got a lot out of it, that you're excited about working on campaigns and reporting those hours and encouraging your members to report those hours. And let's see how many we can get. I know we can get more than we did last term. I am so, so excited for everything we have to do. If you have any questions or you hear about anyone that hasn't seen this episode, please make sure that you tell them to go onto the NFRW website and log on and then contact Teresa if you have any questions. And join me next month on Tuesday, May 31st, when we will talk about programs, meeting women where they are. And I think we are at 12:30 and they're going to cut us off. So thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you very much, Erica. And thank you all very much for joining me. And we will see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.